Hello everyone, welcome to the third lecture of Module 5 on the Information Technology Act 2000. Coming to this outline of this video, first we'll go through offences, that is what act of a person with respect to information technology is considered offence and what punishment is given for the same. Next we'll go through network service providers not to be liable in certain cases, what are they, we'll see. Finally, some other provisions we'll look for. Firstly, we'll go through offences. The first one is tampering with computer source documents. So whoever knowingly or intentionally conceals, destroys or alters or intentionally or knowingly causes another to conceal, destroy, alter any computer source code used for a computer or a computer program, computer system, computer network, when the computer source code is required to be kept or maintained by the law for the time being in force, will consider it to be offense. So, intentionally someone steals, destroys or alter, or they provoke someone other to do the same, that is they ask others to do, they conceal, destroy or alter some computer code which is basically required by the IT law, then in that case they shall be punishable with an imprisonment up to 3 years with fine which may extend up to 2 lakh rupees or both will be given, that is imprisonment as well as they have to pay the fine. So next one is hacking with computer system. So whoever with the intent to cause or knowing that he is likely to cause wrongful loss or damage to the public or any person destroys or deletes or alters any information residing in a computer resource or diminishes its value or utility or affects it injuriously by means commits hack. So basically they said what is a hacking with respect to a computer system. So it is either knowingly or with some intention they will cause some loss to some pupil or to, it might be an organization also, by deleting or altering some information that is residing in their computer or computer resources, thus diminishing its value, causing a loss to organization or to a person. Okay, in that case it is considered to be hacking. So he shall be punished with imprisonment up to 3 years or with fine which may extend up to 5 lakh rupees or both will be given. Next is punishment for receiving stolen computer resource or communication device. So whoever dishonestly receives or retains any stolen computer resource of communication device, knowing or having reason to believe the same to be stolen computer resource or communication device, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years or with fine which may extend to rupees 1 lakh or with both. It means that if someone has stolen a computer resource which is required for the communication purpose, in that case he need to once we know that he has stolen, he need to provide the description. Now based on the description why he has stolen it, a punishment will be given, either an imprisonment of 3 years or a fine which may extend up to 1 lakh rupees or both. Next is punishment for identity theft. So whoever fraudulently or dishonestly make use of the electronic signature, password or any unique identification feature of any other person shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years or shall also be liable to fine which may extend to rupees 1 lakh. It means that if someone steals someone's signature or password or any unique identification details of any other person, then he should give the description why he has done so. Based on the description, he might be punished with an imprisonment of up to 3 years or he shall pay a fine of rupees up to 1 lakh. Next, punishment for cheating by personation by using computer resource. So whoever by means for any communication device or computer resources cheats by personating shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years or shall also be liable to fine which may extend to rupees 1 lakh. It means that if someone, by using a communication device or a computer resource, cheats by impersonating, acting like others using their password, in that case, he shall be punished based on the description why he has done so, with either imprisonment of 3 years, or he need to pay a fine of 1 lakh rupees. Next, punishment for violation of privacy. So whoever intentionally or knowingly captures, publishes, or transmits the image of the private area of any person without his or her consent under circumstances violating the privacy of that person shall be punished with imprisonment, which may extend to 3 years, or with fine not exceeding 2 lakhs rupees, or with both. It means that someone captures someone's other private data and they publish it and they transmit it, in that case without their consent. Okay, it is under the circumstance of violating the privacy of other person. In that case, the person will be punished with an imprisonment up to 3 years and fine not exceeding more than 2 lakhs, or both can be given as a punishment. Next, punishment for cyber terrorism. So whoever with intent to threaten the unity, integrity, security of sovereignty of India, or to strike terror in the people or any section of the people by denying or cause the denial of access to any person authorized to access computer resource. Second one, attempting to penetrate or access a computer resource without authorization or exceeding the authorized access. Or third one, introducing or causing to introduce any computer contaminant, and by means of such conduct causes or is likely to cause death or injuries to persons, or damage to or destruction of property, or disrupts, or knowing that it is likely to cause damage or disruption of supplies and services essential to the life of the community, or adversely affect the critical information infrastructure specified under section 70. So it basically means that first reason means that if someone causes the denial of access to any person authorized to access the computer resource, it means that he is not able to access under his authorized region, then that is called as cyber terrorism. Or second one means that attempting to penetrate or access a computer resource without his authorized, means someone is not authorized to access someone else's data, then he is attempting to access it, or exceeding his authorized access. Both are considered to be cyber terrorism. Third one basically means that if someone introduces a computer virus that causes death or injuries or destruction to a property, or it might be disruption to the supplies and services which is basically required for the human in order to survive, in such cases are done, then it is considered to be cyber terrorism. Then knowingly or intentionally penetrates or accesses a computer resource without authorization or exceeding authorized access, and by means of such conduct obtains access to information, data, or computer database that is restricted, or any restricted information, data, or computer database with reason to believe that such information, data, or computer database so obtained may be used to cause or likely to cause injury to the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relationship with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation, or incitement to an offence, or to the advantage of any foreign nation, group of individuals, or otherwise commits the offence of cyber terrorism. So whoever commits or conspires to commit cyber terrorism shall be punishable with imprisonment, which may extend to imprisonment for life. So someone who does the cyber terrorism will be given imprisonment for life. Next, publishing of information which is obscene in electronic form. So whoever publishes or transmits or causes to be published in the electronic form any material which appeals to the prurient interest or or if it affects in such as to tend to deprave and corrupt person who are likely having regard to all relevant circumstances to read, see or hear the matter contained or embodied in it shall be punished on first conviction with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 5 years and with fine may extend up to 1 lakh rupees in the event of second or subsequent conviction with the imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years or also a fine which may extend up to 2 lakhs rupees. So if somebody publishes other personal e-materials which is actually sexually appealing, in that case if they have done it for the first time, if any person has done it for the first time, he will be asked for the description. Based on the description, an imprisonment up to 5 years will be given, or a fine with up to 1 lakh will be given in the for the first time. If it is repeated for the second and subsequently, then the imprisonment might be extended up to 10 years and a fine might be extended up to 2 lakhs rupees. Next, punishment for publishing or transmitting of material containing sexually explicit act in electronic form. So whoever publishes or transmits or causes to be published or transmitted in the electronic form any material which contains sexually explicit act or conduct shall be punished on first conviction with an imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 5 years and with a fine which may extend to 10 lakh rupees. In the event of second or subsequent conviction with imprisonment of either description for terms which may extend up to 7 years and also with the fine which may extend up to 10 lakhs rupees. Next, power of controller to give directions. So the controller may, by order, direct the certifying authority or any employee of such authority to take such measure or cease carrying on such activities as specified in the order if those are necessary to ensure compliance with the provision of this act, rules or any regulations made thereunder. So any person who fails to comply with any order under section 1, that is this section, shall be guilty of an offence and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or to a fine not exceeding 2 lakhs rupees or both. It means that controller, even though he has given a license for any certifying authority, he might change some of the rules and regulations and he might bring up some order in between. So if any order that is brought by the controller at any point of time, those orders should be followed by every certifying authority who has been licensed under that controller. So if any certifying authority or any authority or an employee of such authority fails to follow those rules or that order that is given, then in such a case they will be given an imprisonment of a term up to not exceeding 3 years and fine not exceeding 2 lakhs rupees or both shall be given as a punishment. Next is government's agency power to intercept information. The Act empowers the state or central government's authorized agency to intercept, monitor or decrypt any information generated, transmitted, received or stored in any computer resources if it is deemed fit in the interest of sovereignty or integrity of India or defense of India, security of the state, friendly relationship with foreign states or public orders, or for preventing incitement to commission of any cognizable offence or for investigation of any offence. The agency can also secure all the facilities and technical assistance from the subscriber or computer personnel to decrypt the information. The subscriber or any person who fails to assist the agency shall be punishable with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 7 years. So it means that a state or central government, any authorized agency might ask any personnel basically to intercept, monitor or decrypt any information that is needed for the government purpose. So if a subscriber or any personnel fails to basically assist such agency, will be punishable with an imprisonment for a term up to 7 years. Next, protected system. The appropriate government may, by notification in the official gazette, declare that any computer or computer system or computer network to be a protected system. So the appropriate government may, by order in writing, or authorize the person who are authorized to access the protected system. So any person who secures access or attempts to secure access to a protected system in contravention of the provision of this section shall be punished with an imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. So it means that the central government or any central government or the state government will notify officially that which computer or computer system or computer networks are protected system and who are authorized to use such protected system. If any person who is not authorized to use such system basically uses it, then a punishment of imprisonment will be given, which may extend up to 10 years, and also a fine will be given for them. Next, penalty for misrepresentation. So whoever makes any misrepresentation to or suppresses any material fact from the controller or the certifying authority for obtaining any license or digital certificate, as the case may be, shall be punished with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years or with fine which may extend to 1 lakh rupees or both. So it means that if at all the certifying authority suppresses any information from the controller in order to get the license. Similarly, if any subscriber basically suppresses any information with respect to certifying authority, then they shall be punished with an imprisonment up to 2 years and a fine up to 1 lakh rupees or both. Next, penalty for breach of confidentiality and privacy. So any person who, in pursuance of any of the powers conferred under this act, rules or regulations made thereunder, has secured access to any electronic record, book, register, correspondence, information, document or other material without the consent of the person concerned, discloses such electronic record, book, register, correspondence, information, document or other material to any other person, shall be punished with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years or with fine which may extend to 1 lakh rupees. Next, penalty for publishing digital signature certificate falls in certain particulars. So no person shall publish a digital signature certificate or otherwise make it available to any other person with the knowledge that the certifying authority listed in the certificate has not issued it, the subscriber listed in the certificate has not accepted it, the certificate has been revoked or suspended unless such publication is for the purpose of verifying a digital signature created prior to such suspension or revocation. So any person who contravenes the provision that is mentioned in these 3 points shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years with the fine which may extend to 1 lakh rupees or both. Next, publication for fraudulent purpose. So whoever knowingly creates, publishes or otherwise makes available a digital signature certificate for any fraudulent or unlawful purpose shall be punished with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years with fine which may extend to 1 lakh rupees or both. Next, act to apply for offence or contravention committed outside India. So subject to the provision of subsection 2, the provisions of this act shall apply also to any offence or contraventions committed outside India by any person irrespective of his nationality. So it means that any person outside India also committed any of the offences till now what we have listed, then he also will be given the same punishment whatever are discussed now. So second point says that for the purpose of subsection 1, this act shall apply to any offence or contravention committed outside India by any person if the act or conduct constituting the offense or contravention involves a computer or computer system or computer network located in India. So it means that adding to point 1, so anyone who is staying outside India has committed any of the offenses listed till now using the computer system or computer network that is located in India, then even they will be punished for the same. Next, confiscation. So any computer or computer system or floppies, compact discs, tape drives or any other accessories related to thereto, in respect to of which any provision of this act or rules, orders or regulations made thereunder has been or is being contravened shall be liable to confiscation. Next, penalties or confiscation not to interfere with other punishment. So no penalty imposed or confiscation made under this act shall prevent the imposition of any other punishment to which the person affected thereby is liable under any other law for the time being in force. Power to investigate offences. So notwithstanding anything contained in the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, a police officer not below the rank of Deputy Superintendent of Police shall investigate any offences under this Act. Next, network service providers not to be liable in certain cases. So for the removal of doubts, it is hereby declared that no person providing any service as a network service provider shall be liable under this Act, rules or regulations made thereunder for any third party information or data made available by him if he proves that the offence or contravention was committed without his knowledge or that he had exercised all his due diligence to prevent the commission of such offence or contravention. So it means that here the network service provider is nothing but the intermediary who acts as in between two communicating parties. Now if any contraventions or offence happens, he need to prove himself that that particular offence has happened without his knowledge and he has done his all duty to prevent it. If he proves that, then he is not liable to any of the punishments. Next, we'll go through some miscellaneous provisions. So the first one is power of police officer and other officers to enter search. Notwithstanding anything contained in the Code of Criminal Procedure in 1973, any police officer not below the rank of Deputy Superintendent of Police or any other officers of the central government or state government authorized by the central government in his behalf may enter any public place and search and arrest without warrant any person found therein who is reasonably suspected to or having committed or of committing or of being about to commit any offence under this Act, that is under IT Act 2000. So it means that if any person has done an offence or is doing an offence or is about to do an offence, in that case any police officer not below the rank of Deputy Superintendent or any other central government or state government officer can enter into the public place. They can do a search and they can arrest any person if they found. Second point says that where any person is arrested under the first point by any officer other than a police officer, such officer shall without unnecessary delay take and send the person arrested before a magistrate having jurisdiction in the case or before the officer in charge of the police station. So it means that if it is not arrested by Deputy Superintendent, if it is being arrested by some central government or state government authorized person, in that case they have to take that person to the magistrate, that is to the court that comes under their jurisdictions, or they can go to the police station which comes under their jurisdiction without any delay. So third point is the provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 shall subject to the provisions of this section apply so far as may be in relation to any entry, search and arrest made there under this section. So it means that any person comes under this section, that is IT Act 2000, again they will be, if they are arrested with this section, then they will be subjected to code of criminal procedure also once they are made arrested. Next, controller, deputy controller and assistant controllers to be public servants. So, the presiding officers and other officers and employees of Cyber Appellate Tribunal, the controller, the deputy controller, the assistant controllers shall be deemed to be as a public servants within the meaning of section 21 of the Indian Penal Code. So, they are all considered to be a public servants. Next, power to give directions. So the central government may give direction to any state government as to the carrying into execution in the state of any of the provision of this act or of any rules and regulations or order made thereunder. So it means that if any order, a new order or rules or regulation is made by the central government, then the direction can be given by the central government to the state government to follow the same, to execute the same in their state. Next, protection of action taken in good faith. So, no suit, prosecution or other legal proceedings shall lie against the central government, the state government, the controller or any person acting on behalf of him, the presiding officer, the adjudicating officer and the staff of the Cyber Appellate Tribunal for anything which is in good faith done or intended to be done in pursuance of this act or any rule, regulations or order made thereunder. So it means that if any new action is taken by any of these officers that is listed here with respect to doing something good, okay, the order has not been passed yet but they have taken sudden action for something good, then that should be not considered as illegal by any of the that is, it shouldn't be considered as illegal by the court if it is done for some good purpose. Next, offences by companies. So, where a person committing a contravention of any of the provision of this act or of any rule, direction or order made thereunder is a company, every person who at the time the contravention was committed was in charge of and was responsible to the company for the conduct of business of the company as well as the company shall be guilty of the contravention and shall be liable to proceeded against and punished accordingly. It means that if any contravention or any offense is done, is not a person but it is a company, and every person who was working at that point of time when the contravention happened or when the offense happened is responsible for that deed, and they shall be liable to proceed against and punished accordingly. So secondly, provided that nothing contained in this subsection shall render any such person liable to punishment if he proves that the contravention took place without his knowledge and that he exercised all due diligence to prevent such contravention. So it means that among this team of people who were responsible for who was in charge at that point of time, if any one of them prove that this particular event or offense happened without his knowledge, and if he is able to prove that, then he is not liable to punishment. The second point says that notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 where a contravention of any of the provision of this act or of any rule, direction or order made thereunder has been committed by a company, and it is proved that the contravention has taken place with the consent or convenience of, or it is attributable to any neglect on the part of any director, manager, secretary or other officers of the company, such director, manager, secretary or other officers shall be deemed to be the guilty of contraventions and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly. So it means that when some particular offense is happening or some contravention is happening and this is being informed to the director of the company or the manager, secretary, any officers, they have already informed it, and those head peoples have neglected those things and have led that contravention to happen or that offense to happen. In that case, they are liable to be punished. Next, removal of difficulties. So if any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provision of this act, the central government may, by order published in the official gazette, make such provision not inconsistent with the provisions of this act as appear to be necessary or expedient from removing the difficulty. So it means that if there is any provision that is being officially published by the central government and it appears to be not inconsistent at any point of time, then those provisions can be removed, but not before 2 years. Only once the order has been published, after 2 years, if they found it inconsistent, they can remove such provisions. So every order made under this section shall be laid as soon as may be after it is made before each house of the parliament. Next, constitution of advisory committee, that is nothing but how the advisory committee gets formed. So the central government shall, as soon as may be after the commencement of this act, constitute a committee called as the Cyber Regulation Advisory Committee. So soon after the commencement of IT Act 2000, they constitute a committee called as Cyber Regulation Advisory Committee. Now, the Cyber Regulation Advisory Committee shall consist of one chairperson and such members of other officials and non-official members representing the interests principally affected or having special knowledge of the subject matter as the central government may deem fit. It means that this committee basically has a chairperson and some official members and non-official members basically who have a special knowledge about this subject matter, that is IT, about internet technology. They need to have some knowledge about that. The third point, the Cyber Regulation Advisory Committee shall advise the central government either generally as regards any rules or for any other purpose connected with this act. The controller is framing the regulations under this act. So what is the job of Cyber Regulation Advisory Committee? So the central government will basically give any rules and regulations that with respect to this act, that is IT Act. The controller is responsible for framing the regulation what is specified by the committee. Lastly, they shall be paid to the non-official members of such committee such as travelling and other allowances as the central government may fix. So the non-official members are also paid some allowances like travelling allowances and any other allowance as fixed by the central government. Next is admissibility of electronic records. So in any information contained in an electronic record which is printed on a paper, stored, recorded or copied in optical or magnetic media produced by a computer shall be deemed to be also a document if the condition mentioned in the sections is satisfied in relation to the information and computer in question and shall be admissible in any proceedings without further proof or production of the original as evidence of any contents of the original or of any fact stated therein of which direct evidence would be admissible. It means that any document that is electronically produced, that is on the paper or it is stored or it is copied onto the optical disc or magnetic disc produced by a computer can be treated as a document by the court. But the condition mentioned is that from which it is being produced, for example the computer through which they copied, that should be an existing one. In that case the copy of that also can be considered as a document without need, there is no need to produce the original document. So this is about admissibility of electronic records. Next, presumption has to electronic records and digital signatures. So in any proceedings involving a secured electronic record, the court shall presume unless contrary is proved that the electronic record has not been altered since the specific point of time to which the secured status relates. It means that any electronic record has produced as a proof in the court, it is presumed it is an original one unless it is proved that the specific time when the record was generated is not altered. So in any proceedings involving secure digital signature, the court shall presume unless the contrary is proved that the secure digital signature is affixed by the subscriber with the intention of signing or approving the electronic record. So in any proceeding that involves a document where a secure digital signature is involved, then the subscriber need to prove that it is signed by him so that the electronic record can be approved. Next, presumption has to digital signature certificates. So the court shall presume unless contrary is proved that the information listed in a digital certificate is correct except for the information specified as the subscriber information which has not been verified if the certificate was accepted by the subscriber. So it means that I can consider any digital signature certificate to be an original one if all the other information provided in the certificate is true except the information that is specified by the subscriber, then I can basically presume the digital certificate is or it can be approved by the court. Next, presumption has to electronic messages. So the court may presume that an electronic message forwarded by the originator through an electronic mail server to the addressee to whom the message purports to be addressed corresponds with the message has fed into his computer for transmission, but the court shall not make any presumption as to the person by whom such message was sent. This is the end of 5th module. Thank you for watching this video.